Hello and welcome to Stand Up Historian. My name is Kourosh and I bring this show to you from beautiful Seattle, Washington. We're having a great spring. It's absolutely breathtaking. I hope wherever you are, you're enjoying the spring. And if you are in the southern hemisphere, enjoying the fall, I guess it's fall there. Tonight, I have a very special episode of Stand Up Historian. And the reason I decided to do this is because there are rumors of war between United States and Israel one side and Iran on the other side. There is a lot of talks of war and dangers of war and destruction of war. I hope everything ends up well for everybody on this planet. The fact is Iran and it is not the occupying corrupt mafia gangsters. They call themselves Islamic Republic. So I always tell people, please, if you're talking about anything about wars, nuclear weapons, or terrorism, supporting proxies all over the Middle East and everywhere else, please keep in mind this is Islamic Republic and that is not Iran. And tonight I want to give you a glimpse of Iran to understand what this country is about, and just change, if I can, if I can just change your mind if you're thinking otherwise about Iran, its culture, people, history, everything about that country. It's not because I was born there. It is not. We have to respect what humanity has done among any culture, any group of people. But I think what Iranians or Persians, we use Persians, it's politically much more safer than Iran, they have done is amazing. And at the end of this, I'm going to have a challenge for you. What I'm about to show you is only 3 pieces of classical literature of Persian literature, and a little bit about history tonight. I challenge you to bring me similar work from any nation. I know some of you may say, oh, we'll find it in Greece. Bring that. Japan, China, wherever you want to go. And I'm going to challenge you because I want to show you that Iran and people of Iran, they have done amazing work for humanity. A lot of it is unknown to many people, especially in the West and specifically in the United States, where all sorts of people live here, and the influence of media has created a picture which is not really reflecting how Iran, culture of Iran, people of Iran really are. So please bear with me, stay with me until the end of this. And if you enjoy my show, please subscribe. That will help me to get more ears and eyes to listen to me. Okay, without any further ado, I'm going to talk about briefly and show you these massive works that I have here. Talk about first Shahnameh, or Letter of the Kings, which is a massive work by Ferdowsi. And then I will show you a work of Maulana, or better known in the West as Rumi. And finally, I will share Hafez with you, which is a poet from 700 years ago, roughly. I have 3 magnificent books here, and I will show you the books and then talk about each one. I have done some other episodes about Maulana and Shahnameh. You can always go back and look at those things. Let's start with Shahnameh. Shahnameh was a book that was ordered to Ferdowsi to write a book. So he had many references. Long story short, it took him 30 years to write this book. And this book includes the sort of mythical history of Iran. It starts with creation of the universe, creation of man, and then continues to introduce the first four kings, the first man, Kourosh. You have to keep in mind a lot of words in there. A lot of words in there are similar with Latin words, and they have similar roots. Mars is Mard or man, so Kourosh was the first man that was created. Let me show you my Shahnameh. Okay, this is Shahnameh. This is about 15-20 pounds. It's 60,000 verses. This one is a magnificent print, magnificent version of Shahnameh, entirely in Persian. And one of the things that Ferdowsi was extremely proud of, and he mentions it in one of the poems here, is that he revived the Persian language by writing this book. Iran, at the time when Ferdowsi was writing this book, this is more than 1,000 years old. This book is. They collected this book in different times, but the version I have is the confirmed, certified version, closest to what Ferdowsi had. I shouldn't say closest. This is the real version of Shahnameh. Nobody could make up these things. So Ferdowsi is proud of reviving the Persian language. Iran was occupied by Arab Muslims, and everybody under their rule, Muslims, they were forced to speak Arabic. You see it in Egypt, you see it in Syria. Those people were never been Arabs, and this was not their language. But what happened was when Muslim invaders and occupiers occupied those lands to wipe off their history and their background, they forced them to change their language and speak Arabic. And they did. And now you see in Egypt, in Syria, even in Iraq, they speak Arabic. Majority of Muslim world in Middle East, they speak Arabic, except Iran. They never spoke Arabic. They refused to speak Arabic. Although they adopted Arabic alphabet and added 4 extra letters to cover their language, but Persian or Farsi is very different than Arabic. I have very dear Arab friends, Muslim friends, and when I can read their text and sometimes even pick up some of the words because they have roots in Arabic when we use different form of that in Persian, but they cannot do the same with Farsi or Persian. So it's a source of pride for Iranians that we kept our heritage, the most important heritage we have, which is our language. And this language helped us to hang on to our culture. And Shahnameh is the massive work that saved Iran by all means. This is the history that people are proud of. I remember when I was a kid, there are, it's not a coffee shop, it's a tea shop. People go there and drink tea. And there are people that they would stand on a platform and start telling stories from Shahnameh. These are epic stories of wars and heroes and friends and foes and betrayal, love, everything you can think of. There are also massive similarities between the stories in Shahnameh and what you see in the Bible, because Shahnameh goes back very long time ago. And in one episode, I will focus on specifically some of the characters that exist in Shahnameh, such as King Jamshid, and characters in the Bible, King Solomon. And I will compare the two and show you that these are the same archetypes. There are places in Iran that names that you hear in Bible, those places exist in Iran, like Shush, which is Shusha, it's in the Bible. Daniel, Prophet Daniel was in Iran, Isaiah was in Iran, Ezra, and many, many other things. And probably most well-known story about Persia in the Bible is a story of Esther and Mordechai. So going back to Shahnameh, this massive work was compiled by Ferdowsi. He wrote every single line of these poems to keep the history of Iran. There are several massive heroes in this book. The most important is Rustam, which is almost majority of the book talks about him. And there are two areas that there are in these two areas always confronting and fighting. They represent the good, the light, evil, and darkness. And it's always Iran and Turan. Turan is Asia Minor. All the areas that people they live there, they are called Turks. Maybe Turkey today is a good representative of that. There are societies even in those areas called Turan, and you can find publications by the name Turan. But when Ferdowsi talks about Iran and Turan, he talks about good versus evil. And he always shows that Iran represents the good. And every king and every hero in this book fights and rages war against lie, the lie, draga, which is in today's Persian they say durug. Gaf becomes a different sound, guttural sound like qa. And you see that this is dragon. The word drauga is in English dragon, the lie. And if you go back to historical Bible and the character of devil, he's a liar. He's known as a liar. So the fight it is between light and darkness, good and evil, and truth versus drauga, dragon or lie. Zoroaster says there is only truth. There is no half-truth. If you try to talk about something and it's just half-truth, it's still a lie. So it was very, very important for these heroes to fight for truth and fight for light. One of the stories in this book, there are heroes in this book that are archetypes of many nations without knowing who these people come from. One of them is Arash. So if you look at the word archery, A-R-C-H-A-R-Y, archery, A-R-Y, the first four is A-R-C-H. And in Spanish or French, it's pronounced arch, not arch. And it's the name Arash. And Arash is the first archer. He's the first man, not the first archer. He's the first prominent archer. And the story goes like this. There was a long war between Iran and Turan. Two forces came to a standstill, and it seemed to Iranian army that, okay, we're about to lose. And Turan and their king knew that, okay, one more push and we will win this war. And just to humiliate Iranians, they said, you know what? We offer you a challenge. If you take the challenge, we stop the war. And the offer was, get one of your archers, and that archer will throw an arrow. Wherever that arrow lands, that would be the borderline. And just think about it. How far could an arrow fly before it hits the ground? And Iranian military and all the generals, they got together and they said, this is a disaster. If we continue to fight, we'll most likely lose. If we accept this challenge, our land is going to be much smaller than what it was. And in fact, we budged to Turks or Turan. So they say, who dares to take such a massive challenge or responsibility of throwing an arrow to determine where the borders of Iran is going to be? Arash, a regular archer, step in and says, My name is Arash. I'm just an archer. I don't have any ranks or privileges or anything. But I will accept this challenge and I will throw the arrow. So, and because there's nobody else, they put their faith on Arash. Arash climbs, the story goes that Arash climbs the Mount Damavand, goes up there and prays to Ahura Mazda, which is the god of Persians, Iranians, and he put the arrow inside the bow, he pulls it, and he releases that. And he puts his soul into this. The arrow flies for many nights and many days. And finally, after several hundred miles, it lands on a walnut tree. And the trunk of a walnut tree lands in there, stuck in there. And that's where Iran and Turan draw the border, which is much more than what the previous borderline was. So Arash became a hero. And even today, I remember when I was younger and I was in Iran, we used to go climbing in Damavand, and around Damavand, there are some areas that they say, if you sit and be quiet and just listen, you will hear Arash prayer in those areas. So you see, there is many stories like this. One thing, please keep in mind, these are from an ancient people that they are proud of what they have done and what Ferdowsi put in this book and this massive heritage for Iranians. 60,000 verses, all rhyme, and this book is the version I have is a magnificent version with a lot of beautiful paintings. I'll put some pictures up for you to see that. So that's Ferdowsi. That's the first one I wanted to talk to you about tonight. And this is the book, just to recap, that saved the Persian language and helped Iranians to stay in touch with their history. And there is a very strong sense of pride in being an Iranian and being a Persian among Iranians. And interestingly, after the current regime occupy Iran, I always use that because I see it as the second invasion of Islam to Iran. When they occupied the country and they forced people, you couldn't name your child based on real names, Persian names with Persian roots. They enforced that. But like anything else that they tried to force to these people, like their previous occupiers that tried to change the language of these people, and they felt this corrupt and cruel and illegitimate regime also failed. And you will hear a lot of young generation with beautiful Persian names. So this is very important to understand who we're talking about when you talk about Iranians or you talk about Persians. So number one was Shahnameh. One more time, I'm going to show you a picture of Ferdowsi, which is in the beginning of this book, and the book is here is a picture of Ferdowsi. He's buried in a city called Mashhad, a few miles outside of Mashhad, and I had the privilege of going to his shrine many times. So the next one is Rumi. Everybody knows Rumi. Rumi is known for his massive work as a Sufi, sort of Gnostic. His writings are incredibly lovely and mystical. So here is this is one of his books, thousands of pages. And this is the book he wrote for Shams. And I will tell you who Shams was. So we're talking about Persian history and literature. Just a drop from that beautiful ocean of art, literature, and amazing history, which contributed a lot to humanity. So this is Maulana. Maulana was a teacher of religious sect, and every day he would sit. Probably for Western audience, it's more like what you hear from Greek, that all these philosophers, they were sitting outside, outdoors. Students come, gather around them, and they talk about this subject or that subject, and they discuss different things and they debate. That's what roughly Maulana was doing. One day, as he was sitting and teaching, a person approaches him with dirty clothes, and he's just scruffy, and he doesn't look like anyone important. And he walks straight to Maulana. He grabs his books that he was teaching from them, and he throws the books into a stream of water that was going next to the place that these people are sitting. Maulana was shocked. He looked up at him and he said, "What are you doing? You throw out the knowledge." And the man smiled and he said, "No, get up, let's go. I'll show you what real knowledge is." And that man is called Shams. And Shams in Arabic means the sun. In Hebrew is Shemesh. So Shams, perhaps it was not his real name, but it's known as Shams of Tabriz, which is a city in northwestern Iran. So the story, the love story of, not sexual, love story of Maulana and Shams begins there. And when you go through this story and events that they went through together, you find amazingly similar stories that Jesus' apostles went through with Jesus, and they tell those stories in the Gospels. One of the very interesting ones that I will tell you here is Shams and Maulana, they're walking. So he leaves the life behind. He leaves the school. He's not teaching. He becomes a Sufi. He just loses everything. The only thing he wants is to know what is the truth, what this man has to say. Where did you come from? What are you talking about? Where did you get this knowledge? And that's all combined into this massive book, which Maulana wrote and dedicated to Shams. Beautiful poems. You know, being an Iranian, especially these days, it's not easy. You're known for a country that has the label of terrorism, and nobody wants to look at it and say, no, this is an occupying, corrupt regime, not these people. So please, when I talk about these two, keep in mind, there is Islamic Republic, which is a terrorist organization, and there is Iran. So Shams asks Maulana to follow me. And they start talking, walking, and he gives them his teachings. They reach a body of water, lake or river or whatever it is. And Shams continues to walk, and Maulana notices that, oh, Shams is walking on the water. Sounds familiar? Who else was walking on the water? And Maulana says, I want to walk on the water. And Shams says, sure. Walk behind me and just mention my name. Just keep saying like a mantra, Shams, 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 and follow me, and you won't go under. Maulana starts saying that and walking behind Shams, and he's walking on the water. We know the story of Peter and Jesus, exactly the same thing. Maulana is very curious. He says, okay, I'm saying Shams and I'm walking behind this guy. What is he saying? Is he also mentioning his name, or he's saying something else? So he sharpens his ears and listens and says, and hears that Shams is saying, Yahoo, Yahoo, Yahoo. Sounds familiar? Yahoo? Who's the God of Jews? Yahweh. I'm not saying that this Yahoo is that Yahoo, but it's the who. And Maulana says, well, I'm going to say Yahoo. And as soon as he says Yahoo, he goes underwater. So Shams reaches out, pulls him up, and looks at him and says, listen, you are still missing the knowledge to understand who I am. And now you jumping and trying to mention the name of the creator, the one who created me. You have to be very patient. There are many beautiful poems in Shams, Maulana's dedicated book to Shams. One of them says, one night, I tried to translate it for you guys. The joy is to read it in Persian. All the troubles of being Iranian or Persian is worth being able to read in Farsi and understand every word. So the poem goes like this. One night I lost my mind and I was yelling and screaming. Love came and said, quiet, what are you doing? Stop tearing your robe. And I said, I am afraid of the other things. And love says, there is no other thing. Sit down. I will whisper the truth in your ears. Don't say a word. Don't utter any word. Just listen and shake your hand. Shake your head, sorry. So these mystical encounters between Shams and Maulana, which was the origin of this book and other Maulana's works, are incredibly valuable for people, and it opens the doors to understanding Gnosticism in this books. And these people are supposedly Muslim. They live in Iran, and you look at Gnostics in perhaps Israel, today's Israel, that far from here, and they all have their roots deep inside something even more ancient, which came from Zoroaster and that religion. And Iranians, by using Shahnameh, they kept their connection to their past. The teachings continued despite all kinds of invasions and destruction by Alexander and others. So many events, so many disasters happened. But the only thing that saved these people is the language, is the culture. In Judaism also, we say what saved the Jews is the Torah, because it's the language, it's the culture. We never lost touch with our roots. So it's the same thing with Shahnameh, and gave birth to other massive works. So that was Rumi. The next one I want to show you is Hafez. Hafez lived in Shiraz. Shiraz is one of the most beautiful, lovely cities in Iran. You perhaps seen the wine called Shiraz. I don't have one to show you, but you've seen it. The wine in this city is very famous. Of course, before the revolution, I don't think if they make wine with the grapes of Shiraz anymore. And Hafez talks about wine of Shiraz, beauty of Shiraz, and he is a massive mystic. He's a Sufi, and his writings, at the first glance, when you listen to them, it seems like someone talking about a woman that he loves, time that he had with her, drinking wine or this or that. But when you dig deeper and you understand the language and references in that, you realize that this man is in love with knowledge, with understanding, and he lays wide open many mysteries in his poems. Let me show you the third book, which is Hafez. This is the Divan of Hafez, which is the collection of all his work. This version is a beautiful, magnificent version with very beautiful paintings by famous Iranian painter, Fashchi. And you just have to read that. Something very interesting about Hafez is many people, Persian New Year, first day of spring, a specific time, when it starts, to prepare for that, we have to gather 7 things, which start with the letter S. Of course, in Farsi, it's a sin. And put a holy book there. Many people, some people, they put Quran, some people probably they put Torah or Gospel or whatever. But everybody, regardless of their religion, they have Hafiz for the beginning of the year. And what happens is they start thinking to themselves, sort of like a make-a-wish, and they open Hafiz's book and start reading and interpret that. So Hafiz tells them, okay, this year, this is what's going to happen to you. Sort of like asking Hafiz how the new year is going to unfold for me. It's a belief that everybody, regardless of their religion, regardless of their beliefs, they have Hafiz. So again, this is very important to understand that this literature is above the religion. It's beyond religious teachings. And these books were, in fact, honored and treasured by every Iranian. And they're so proud of these things. I only showed you 3 classical works from Iran. There are many, many more. And I repeat my challenge. Bring anything from any nation. Heck, any empire, any part of an empire. And show me that they have this depth, this amount of massive work with substance. You can't find anything that comes close to that. Sometimes they talk about Homer, something to be close to Shahnameh. It can't even be compared at all with the amount of work, depth of knowledge, and history that is in these books. And beyond that, between Shahnameh, Hafiz, Maulana, and others, you will find the culture that created this, the cradle that created people like these 3. Just, I have to mention that there are female poets in Iran. The most famous was Parveen Tesami. Amazing work. So wherever you go, you see that. And one last thing I have to add is people in Iran, they admire their poets to the point of worshiping them. Every year, people go to the shrine of Hafiz, Ferdowsi the same way. So Iranians, they worship these people, they admire them, and they are grateful that they had people like this to keep their culture intact over the storms of thousands of years. Different invasions and different groups coming and trying to destroy them. They destroyed Persepolis, Alexander did. They destroyed many things. Arabs, they destroyed all the palaces, famous rugs, massive rugs. They destroyed all those material things. What saved Iran to stay here among 5 or maybe 4 major nations that they have a history from ancient time is what's in these books and books like this. So I want to close this by thanking you for listening to me, recap this and tell you that Shahnameh is a massive work, not for Iran, for the humanity. There are parallels in this book with many other cultures and archetypes. Maulana is another teacher for humanity, not just for Iranians, and Hafez the same way. And they should be representative of Iran, not the terrorist government, the brutal, cruel, and violent group that have occupied Iran with their ambitions. That is not Iran. I appreciate you for listening to me. And as I said in the beginning, because of the rumors of war, I wanted you to know that whether the war happens or doesn't, it's better to know, if you are listening to me or watching me in Israel or United States, look beyond the political system, and at least you understand who you are going to fight with. And I hope and pray that peace, prosperity, and freedom returns to Iran beyond this gang, beyond this mafia that's ruling Iran and pretending to representing those people. With love from Seattle, and with love from Iranian culture, which they contributed to humanity, I say goodbye tonight, and until the next time, take care.